Hello guys, how you do? It's like clear my throat there. Oh, what was I gonna say? And as you can see, my doll seriously sitting there next to me. I hate to show her off here, like I do sometimes, but I am trying to make a point. So, of course, what I was gonna say on this video was that both men and women, human beings have a natural and understandable fear of being replaced. It's not just women or men that have this fear. Both sides have this fear. Now, just a quick history on, attempts of actually people, men and women, actually trying to replace each other, who at some point or another have had enough of each other, as they have probably felt, and have tried to actually live without each other. The most prolific one I would have to think of is when the Amazonians, who were a group of women, and yes, the Amazonians did actually exist. I suggest you look into them. What they tried to do is that they tried cutting out men out of their lives almost entirely, because they felt that they had enough of men. They had tired of being abused. They have tired of being the rules and their behaviors at the time, and they were pushed too far. And so these women at the time formed a group of the Amazonians. And, for a short while, they even tried doing stuff like, tricking men off of barges and ships to sleep with them off of land. I mean, just men coming in off of land who were native, who weren't native to their lands, and to sleeping with them and impregnating them, possibly even getting them drunk, just whatever it took, I guess. And then they would slaughter these men right after sleeping with them, and they would return back to their pack of Amazonians. So that's how the story goes, at least the kind of theatrical story kind of goes. But there is actually the Amazonians did actually exist. I suggest you look into them. But of course, there's another reason why the Amazonians don't exist, is because the system didn't work. And I will tell you the reason why it most likely didn't work. Is because even if these women are sleeping with these guys, they're most likely going to birth men. And it's like, well, what do you do then? To say the least, it gets complicated. Life can be very complicated. And so to speak. And, you can't just... So here's the basic point I'm trying to make, is that even if we tried to so-called replace each other, God isn't just going to be like, and I'm not religious, but, God or whoever, nature, isn't just going to be like, oh, well, women don't want men, or women don't want men, so we're just going to stop making men. And it's the same thing with women. If I were to try to take something like this next to me and try to replace women, that's just not how it's going to work. If both sides or one side tried to do that, and men and women just purely stopped working with each other, the human race would seriously just cease to exist. It would just be retarded. It would be retarded to try and replace each other. That it just would not work. That's just not how it works. Even if we wanted to, we couldn't do it. As long as people are going to be birthed into this world, men and women are going to coexist. That's just how it is, especially with humanity. You can't change that. That's just in our nature. We can't actually change that. That's always how it's going to be with human beings. But people still think this, and it's like, okay, so why do people think this? Well, I hate to say it, but you can't necessarily also blame people for thinking it, because we live in this objectified society. In fact, the society that we live in today is so objectified that people are actually afraid that people are just going to replace it in general. I mean, with machinery, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, right now, people, of course, are afraid that machines are going to take our jobs. And I think that actually machines, they've been replacing people in a way for over 100 years now, really, when you think about it. I mean, there actually there used to be people that used to be hired to wake people up for work on time. And nowadays, we don't have that job anymore. We have something called alarm clocks. And you also don't see people very often operating a elevator, because operating an elevator used to be a little more complicated. But nowadays, you don't see that. You just press the button and up you go. You don't need somebody manning an elevator anymore like you used to. But you also got to look back into the past of how we used to work, because it used to be just mostly manual labor, really, when you think about it, and war. Because back then, that was really the only way to get what you wanted back then, was to literally just take your gun or take your axe and fight for it and defend yourself. Defend what you had and fight for more. That's basically the only thing you could do back then. People didn't have the vocabulary that we used to. I mean, I'm turning that around, aren't I? We have a much wider, much bigger, and less complicated vocabulary nowadays, to say the least. But yeah, without further ado, I mean, yeah, it's complicated. But as far as the future goes, I mean, as far as how, stuff like this next to me is going to affect the future, though, that is actually a really complicated question, actually. Because I know for a fact that people, men and women, aren't going to replace each other. and that's just absurd. It's not going to happen. But I mean, the future definitely looks like we're going to have a place for, love dolls and other things in the near future. And there's even a prediction that by 2030, that we are going to start having relationships with, machines or love dolls or whatever you want to call them. Sex dolls. Because that is basically what these things are made for. They aren't made to replace us. And that's definitely not their intent. I mean, they just, even if you put if you give these things like a robot, AI personality, that's still not nearly going to be enough to even think of replacing women. I mean, that's certainly not anything that I can think any men are really thinking that is, except for, misogynist. Or men going their own way group, which I think that those people are just downright stupid. They, I think that all women are bad or something. That's just stupid. But this video is almost 10 minutes now, so I'll just stop it there and just think about what I just said, because yeah, it's not going to happen. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.